Alright guys, what is up? It's your boy Steven here again for another video. Been keeping the daily uploads coming, so hit that subscribe button. But today I'm talking about how reliable a Mazdaspeed 6 or Speed 3, I guess for that matter, can be. Mostly I'm talking about the engine, but there are a few other things that I want to talk about. Okay, so a lot of people have been asking me whether Mazdaspeed 6s are reliable, or they just have been straight up telling me that Mazdaspeed 6s can't be reliable and they're just not reliable. So I wanted to put that to bed. Mazdaspeed 6s and Speed 3s can be and are really reliable, but they do get a bad name because of a few issues and a few driver errors. So the first thing is oil. Everyone kind of just lets their oil slide and they go 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 plus miles, and they sometimes use crappy oil. No, Mazdaspeed 6s are fantastic cars. However, the oil you use is very important, as well as how often you change it. If you think about it, if you don't change your oil every at least 4,000 miles, I try to do it at 3,000 or even sometimes sub 3,000 just to be safe and just to have that confidence. If you change your oil early, you can just beat on the car and just have a little bit more confidence that it's gonna hold up. But if you go 4,000, 5,000 plus and just let your oil change go, and you don't change your oil with quality oil, then of course the car is gonna break down and blow up a lot easier, especially when you start to mod it. The second thing that I wanna talk about is the turbo. So the stock turbo is crap in my opinion. The stock turbo is called a KO4 turbo, and the reason why the turbo sucks is because the shaft in the turbo is really skinny and really long. So what happens is when you drive the car really hard and then you just turn the car off immediately, you just shut it off and you don't let it idle for just a second, the turbo gets really hot. Obviously from driving really hard, it's just gonna get super hot. So if you just turn the car off, the bearings inside or whatever that hold the whole turbine and the whole turbo together, those are extremely important. And if you just shut the car off without letting it idle for a little bit, the turbo is super hot and it just sits there. It's not spinning anymore and it's not getting any lubrication from oil, because obviously the oil gets pumped through the turbo while the car is running. But if you turn it off, no more oil to the turbo. So if you turn it off super quickly, then, or just don't let it idle down, then of course the turbo is just gonna sit there, and that shaft that's really long and skinny is going to bend over time. So that's why the stock turbo always gets shaft play, and then you start to get white smoke or just some type of smoke out of your exhaust. So that's kind of how that issue happens. The stock KO4 will last a lot longer if you let it idle down and you just take the time to give the car a little bit longer to cool down. It's just that people will beat on the car, they'll race it, and then they'll just shut the car off immediately because they think it helps it cool down. But you actually want to let it idle for just a little bit to cool down that turbo and just get it lubricated and everything. So that's another reason why the Mazdaspeed 6 gets a bad name, because sometimes the driver error, people just beat on the car and blow it up and they think it's the car's fault, but they just have been driving it wrong, or they have not let it cool down, stuff like that. So that's why the stock turbo sucks. Alright guys, the next reason that I want to talk about why the Mazdaspeed 6 seems to not be reliable, or why people tend to break the car so often, the stock motor mounts and diff mounts, and basically any mount, the tranny mount, all of them are really not that good. Some are better than others, but the stock motor mounts are kind of trash and they need to be replaced. What happens is if you don't replace your stock motor mounts for a little bit stronger and a little bit stiffer motor mounts, then the motor, especially once you start to mod it, it can move all over the place so aggressively that just all the movement starts to break things. I'm not exactly sure what it breaks. To be honest, I haven't broken any of those components because I just changed my motor mounts right from the beginning. But if you see dyno videos or just videos in general of them having stock motor mounts in Speed 6's or Speed 3's, and they are doing a hard pull, you can see the entire motor just shift really aggressively, especially when you are changing gears. It just slams the whole motor, and once you blow out the stock motor mounts, or for instance the stock Diff Mount, stuff like that, any of the mounts, once you blow them up or just break them a little bit, then obviously the problem gets a million times worse and the motor can just start shifting even more. The other mounts that are a huge problem are the diff mounts. So the stock diff mounts really aren't that strong, and what happens is when you launch the car multiple times and you drive it really hard and they break, that's when you can break your diff and your rear axles. The whole driveline in a Mazdaspeed 6 is actually really strong. I've launched my car probably at least 30-40 times. Like, I've launched it quite a few times and it is still running strong, mostly just because I replaced those mounts, and then I also did the clutch. I replaced the clutch with the ACT 6-puck clutch, and I've just kind of babied it since and haven't launched it too hard. But once you change all of your mounts out, it can take a beating, and obviously you got to do it at your own risk, but the whole driveline in the Mazdaspeed 6 actually is pretty strong. Alright guys, for my last point, I'm talking about the driveline again. So a lot of people say that, oh, the Mazdaspeed 6 driveline sucks, it's not that strong. And really, the transmission is crazy strong. The stock transmission can handle up to like 700-800 wheel horsepower, some crazy numbers. The thing that normally, the part I guess that normally tends to let go is the transfer case. And the transfer case is actually pretty strong as well, but it tends to leak because I believe they're called the end caps. They don't seal that well. So if you get billet end caps and you replace those, like maybe when you're doing your clutch or upgrading something, then you install billet end caps in your transfer case, and the transfer case is what's connected to the transmission to get that all-wheel drive. But basically, if you don't fix the leaking, then that's what causes the transfer case over time to break a lot easier or be more prone to breaking. So that's why you have to change out the billet end caps. I haven't done that. I just have brand new OEM ones in my transfer case for when I installed a new clutch, but I do plan to do that. Then after that, your axles are actually really strong, the stock Mazdaspeed axles as well as the diff. But like I said before, you want to upgrade your diff mounts so that the whole differential doesn't move all over the place and cause braking or premature wear. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you have any other cars that you think are unreliable or get a bad name for being unreliable, put them down in the comments. Also, if there's anything I missed for the Mazdaspeed 6 that you think is unreliable or that you think gets a bad name, put it down in the comments and I'll be sure to reply. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.